I'll call Senator Geshuhai when there's silence. Senator Geshuhai.
My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Defence, Senator Payne. Will the Minister update the Senate on the important investments that this government is making to keep Australia safe while also growing the economy and creating jobs?
The Minister representing the Minister for Defence, Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Geshuhai for her question, because this government, the Liberal National Government, is making an unprecedented $200 billion investment in defence capability over the next decade. The government will grow the defence budget to 2% of GDP by 2020-21, 2 years ahead of our election commitment in 2013. And we're able to make these investments because of our prudent economic management. This is a commitment which will give the Australian Defence Force members the equipment they need to operate effectively well into the future. In shipbuilding alone, we are getting on with the building of our 12 future submarines, 9 Hunter-class frigates, 12 offshore patrol vessels and 21 Guardian-class patrol boats. We're investing hundreds of millions of dollars in the infrastructure required in preparation for the build and use of these naval vessels. Mr President, that includes over $1.5 billion investment in Western Australia at a number of facilities, $535 million at the Osborne South shipyard, with further redevelopment to occur at the Osborne North submarine yard, also creating hundreds of jobs in that process. We're investing in the build and the sustainment of the cutting-edge Boxer combat reconnaissance vehicles, with construction to be based in Queensland. We've also continued to invest in the acquisition of 72 Joint Strike Fighter aircraft, the first 2 of which will arrive in Australia next week, a momentous occasion. I could continue, Mr President, briefly. The Poseidon, the Triton maritime surveillance aircraft systems, the Reaper remotely piloted aircraft, all of this is possible because of our strong economic management and our commitment to growing our economy and creating jobs.
Senator Geshuhai, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, how will this investment provide wider benefits to the Australian economy, which creates jobs and greater opportunity?
Senator Payne.
Thank you, Mr President. And Senator Geshuhai has lit upon a very important point of the process that we are undertaking, because we have set ambitious Australian industry content standards for all of our major acquisitions, ensuring that if work can be done in Australia, it is done in Australia. Last week, in fact, an Oxford economics report found that the Hunter-class frigate project would create over 6,300 jobs, contribute $17 billion to the Australian economy, use 48,000 tonnes of Australian steel, with over 500 Australian companies pre-qualified to work on the project. The Future Submarine program itself expected to create 2,800 jobs. The offshore patrol vessels expected to create up to 1,000 jobs. The Boxer CRVs up to 1,450 jobs nationally, with around 70% Australian industry content, as I said, the build focused in Queensland. From Perth to Sydney, from Hobart to Darwin, in cities and in regional areas like Rockhampton and Nowra, our investment is paying dividends.
Senator Geshuhai, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Minister. Will the Minister update the Senate on any threats to this investment that could weaken economy, cost jobs and lead to fewer opportunities for Australian businesses?
Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Well, it is disappointing, but I have to say there's no greater threat to defence investment in this country than those opposite in the Australian Labor Party, because the last time they were in office, their addiction to debt left them unable to make the sort of crucial investments we need to keep Australians safe. During their final 3 years in office, they cut defence investments by almost 18%, Mr President, leading to the lowest level of defence spending since 1938, at only 1.56% of GDP. That has real impacts on defence capability and on jobs. Under those opposite, under the Australian Labor Party, 119 defence projects were delayed. 43 projects were degraded and 8 projects were straight-out cancelled. They didn't commit to the build of one single naval vessel in Australia in 6 years in government. During their last period in government, defence industry shrank by 10%. So we could not be taking a more different approach than those opposite. We are bringing
Senator
the budget
Payne,
into—
time for the answers expired.